All right, good morning, everyone. Today is day 38 of our Rankin Technical College online summer 2023 AWD1100 C# programming class. This is Jeff Scott. I am taping. And the first thing we're going to do today is I'm going to go over some of the stuff I attached to yesterday's email, but never went over. All right, you can see in the bulletized list there that stuff. I'm not going to do that. And probably it'll take less than an hour, I would guess. Afterwards, we're going to go over some of the stuff that I sent you. Okay. I emailed you a couple zip folders today. We're going to go over those. We'll also take a quick look at some of the tutorials that I sent you links to yesterday. All right. After that, as it says, we're going to go over some additional MySQL query examples, and that's especially what is in the MySQL worksheets folder. Tomorrow, we're going to continue with more query examples. That'll probably be more along the lines of the other folder that says SalesOrders mysql.zip. And Thursday, again, will be a lab day for the entire period for you to work on homework, written tests, labs, your final project, and/or your electronic portfolio. I did go back. I believe now I'm totally up to date. As of 8 a.m. today, the 25th of July, I believe I'm currently up to date right now with all the grading. If you think you've turned something in that I have not yet graded, please let me know as soon as you can. All right. Your chapters 17 and 18 written tests. So the written test for 17, the written test for 18, 17-1 and 18-1, which we went over last week, are due by midnight tomorrow. And your chapter 19 written test, and that's all I'm going to require, or all I'm assigning for chapter 19, that's due by 11:59 p.m. or at midnight this Sunday. All right, so with all that said, let's take a look. So this was the first thing. Here's a warning, I'm not going to go over all 50 of these. All right, that would be, to me, kind of ridiculous. But let's look at some of them. All right. Now, the first one, a database. A collection of data which is organized to make the retrieval process faster and storing process easier. I don't know if I really agree with that. All right. Now, a book that I used to use used to define a database as an electronic repository of data. Okay. And I'm not sure I really agree with that one either. All right. Years ago, my wife was telling me one night when I came home from work, she said that her friend, Patty, had gone to the mall and didn't realize, but must have locked. And when she did, somebody broke into her car and took some of the stuff out of her car. What she was most concerned with was her date book was missing. It wasn't electronic, it was a handwritten date book. You could make a case that was a database, although it was not an electronic thing of information. The other thing too, and it's kind of what I'm about to tell you, not everybody will agree with, but databases handle data. What does that mean? Data typically gets processed and it turns into information. In fact, data is sometimes referred to as unprocessed information, and information is sometimes referred to as processed data. All right. But for all practical purposes, for what we're looking at it for, a database is a collection of data. It is an organized collection of data. And for us, at least, it's an electronic organized collection of data. You know that a database consists of one or more related tables. All right. Table is right below that. A collection of related data held in a structured format. Tables consist of columns and rows. All right. Columns are also known as fields. All right. And they're basically a set of data values for one particular data type. So, for instance, if we had a database with 7 fields, first name, last name, address, city, state, zip code, and phone number, that would be 7 columns or 7 fields. Each one of those 7 columns or 7 fields about an individual person would constitute a row or a record. All right. So a row is a single structured data item in a table. It's also known as a record or a tuple. Okay. Now, constraints, the ones we've been most concerned with, have been primary key and unique. And I guess we talked about, right? Now, here's one we didn't talk about, a view. What you can do when you work with a database is when you write a query, and we wrote a few of those yesterday, you can save the query. So what a view is basically is it's a saved query. All right. All right. A synonym is like those aliases we did yesterday when we renamed columns or we renamed tables. A primary key, again, is a unique record identifier. All right. A foreign key is when you take the primary key of one table and add it as a field into another table. The table that contains the foreign key is the child table. All right. The table that actually has the where the primary key came from is the parent table. Now, one thing we did not go over here is normalization, and we're not going to. All right. It's basically the process of breaking down data into tables. I'll just leave it at that. And there's at least 7 to 12 stages of normalization. And if you normalize too much, you can denormalize, which is kind of going the other way. All right. We've talked about SQL, which again is also referred to as sequence. SQL, I should say, not sequence. It's also referred to as SQL. As it says, it's a programming language designed to work with relational database management systems. We talked about indexes. All right. Indexes are automatically set for your primary key for your table. You can set indexes for any field. Indexes help improve the speed when you have when you write queries. Okay. All right. Transactions. A transaction must pass the acid test, which means it must be atomic, consistent, isolated, and durable. The idea is this. Quite often when you talk about a transaction in a database realm, it might be a series of inserts, a series of updates, a series of deletes, all of them together as one unit of information. Typically with a transaction, either the entire transaction succeeds or the entire transaction fails. All right. I'm not going to talk about OLTP or OLAP. Data warehouse, that's a big thing today. Where you've got literally a company has got all of its data in different files and different servers, etc. And with a data warehouse that can get organized so people can go and take a look at anything, any piece of data they want. All right, let's see a couple more of these. DDL, I already gave you yesterday. That's data definition language. All right, and it works with the schema, as it says right there. And it includes create, alter, and drop. There's also a truncate. I don't even mention that because I used. Then there's DML, the data manipulation language. All right, and that was the select, the insert, the update, and the delete, typically referred to as CRUD operations, where CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. All right. This cascade may or may not be important for us, but the idea is if you remove a parent record, are you allowed to remove a parent record if that parent still has associated child records? All right, how do you handle that? And that's what Cascade works with. Union we'll take a look at a little bit later. It allows you to combine two tables together into one. Join we looked at yesterday. As it says, it combines two or more tables together, and they have to have a field in common. An inner join is what we were doing yesterday. That's when there's a match in both tables. All right. With a left outer join, it's everything on the left and the stuff on the right that matches. With a right outer join, it's the reverse. It's everything on the right and anything that matches on the left. All right. Full join, I don't know if I ever do much work with those. A relational database, that's what we've been working with. Database that allows you to link information from different tables because there is or are related fields between them. Now, for when you take the AWD1100 class, not the class I'm going to teach in fall, but the class that'll run in spring, I don't know who's going to teach that. It's going to be me or somebody else. I don't know. All right. You work with MySQL, but then you jump into a non-relational database. And I don't know why they said Mango there, because it's not Mango. It is called MongoDB, is an example of a non-relational database. All right. So NoSQL, it's a database. Now that isn't really correct. It says a database that does not use the structured query language. A NoSQL database can use SQL, can use the structured query language. The thing is, it doesn't have to. All right. Again, I'm trying to hit the ones that we're talking about in here. All right. So the last one I'd mention quickly, again, you've talked about it already, the last two, I guess. First is schema, and that's the collection of database objects. So that's basically the names of your fields in a table, the data type they have, any constraints you have on them, etc. Finally, a query, a request of information from a database using SQL. Not a bad definition. All right. Then the next one is this, which I thought was a pretty doggone good article. Database and SQL roadmap. Everything you need to know about SQL. And again, you can see how the author has broken this down in here. I'm not going to sit and read what is a database, what is SQL. This is a thing that if you get the time, it would probably be in your interest, if not for this class, sooner rather than later, to sometimes spend an hour or so and just go through this. All right. What is in here basically are they explain, things like what is a select, what is a where, what is an order by. I'm not going to go through any of these. All right. But what happened was, and we're going to look at this next, I got asked online if I wanted cheat sheets for MySQL and for SQL Server. And I signed up for them. We're going to look at those in just a moment. When they came back, there was another link, and that other link was to this article. All right, 11 pages long. It's a pretty decent read. Now, this week, we're talking about MySQL, which is an example of a database management system, in particular, a relational database management system. All right. Next week, we're going to talk more about SQL Server. What you will notice when you look at the two, for instance, look at this select query. There it is for MySQL. Now, to SQL Server, watch, nothing changes. The syntax is the same. Now, some of the syntax between these two are different. With some of them, the way you do one thing or another does differ between the two. But I'd like us tomorrow to try, I'm going to see if we can do this. I'm still working on it. Haven't gotten it to work yet. All right. If we can write some kind of a program, a C# program, which will allow us to work with both C# and databases. All right. What I was hoping to do is also bring classes into this, and that's kind of what we do next semester in the AWD1100 Database Driven Web Development 2 class. All right. I don't know if I'm going to get that far or not, to be honest with you, but this is really well done. I mean, it goes through virtually everything that you have to get started in MySQL and everything you need to get started in SQL Server. So I'm going to keep these both available for me, because as we start to write our own code, we'll probably need to go back and take a look at some of that. So, talked about this, and this, and this, and this. Now, yesterday we went through these two things. I'm not going to go through them again right now. All right, yesterday we went through these. All right. And I grabbed and I did an import or several imports, and I brought in the schema and the records, and then we went in and we wrote queries. Now that I think about that, let's see, because I hate that when I say I'm going to do something for you and then I don't do it. So let's see here. Again, I tried to clean this up a little bit yesterday, which was probably silly on my part. This imported into XAMPP. Let me copy that here. I think these were the queries that we wrote yesterday. And I even said like things like removing a state, you didn't have to do those, but that was those. All right, and here were the different files that we brought over. So I'm going to grab this quickly to ascend to, compressed, and I'm going to move that way down here to make sure I send you that along with today's email. All right, so you will have that available if you're interested. All right. The last thing I'm not going to go over right now, this is a zip folder because next week we're going to talk about SQL Server Management Studio. And one more thing, I've said this before. All right, we meet this week, the week of the 24th. We meet next week, the week of the 31st. We meet the following week, the week of the 7th, and we meet the week after that, the week of the 14th. My hope is by tomorrow, we'll be done with the MySQL portion of this class. And by a week from tomorrow, we'll be done with the SQL Server portion of the class. What that means is that Thursday, so a week from tomorrow, that Thursday, the entire next week, and the entire week after that, which comes out to like 9 class periods. All right. And that's 50 some hours, closer to 60 hours. You have to work on finishing up your homework, finishing up your labs, finishing up your written tests, finishing up this final project, and finishing up your portfolio. I do not plan the last 2 weeks of class. I do not plan on doing any lecturing unless something unexpected comes up. All right. So the rest of the stuff in here, well, I've already brought these up on my system here. This is a MySQL tutorial. You're going to basically find examples of virtually everything that was on that cheat sheet. All right, it's a W3 Schools tutorial. It's well written. I've gone through it before. There's another one here. This is just an SQL tutorial. Again, SQL is the structured query language. All right, and it's used with relational database management systems. The SQL that's used with MySQL is not identical to the SQL used with SQL Server. All right. And then there is an SQL keywords reference. So if I go back here, grab this, and I'm going to go back to tutorials. So if you go to w3schools.com, period, if you go back out to there and you just go in here and you choose tutorials, you'll notice that you get in here amongst other things. If I keep looking through here, all right, there's a C# tutorial. No, I haven't gone over any of it. All right. Those of you who will be in the ASP.NET class, I don't know if they have anything here for that. Nope, they don't. But again, for what we're looking at right now, oh, where are you? There's Learn MySQL, and then there's Learn SQL. All right, so their Learn MySQL reference is going to be very, very similar to the stuff that I showed you in that right here. Okay. All right, so there's that. Now, I'm going to go over all of this. I'm about to tell you something, and I'm going to go over all of this next week. So don't worry about it right now, but I want to mention it to you. Okay. All right. At the beginning of this semester, I believe on day 1, we went over here and we installed Visual Studio. When we did that, when we installed Visual Studio, one of the things that came with that was something called the Visual Studio installer. And I'm going to click on that. All right. And what I can do from there is a few different things. All right. I'm going to go over here to modify. And under modify, what this is going to show me is what I currently have loaded on my machine. All right. And there are 3 things: ASP.NET and web development, .NET desktop development, and data storage and processing. Now, it's possible that when you downloaded yours, rather than putting in these 3 things, as I said at the time, you only put in one, maybe just the .NET desktop development, or you put in 2 of them, maybe that and this. This ASP.NET and web development, that is actually used in the AWD1100 class, which will now not be offered until spring of 2024. But this right here, this data storage and processing, all right, if you went in and when you set your thing up, you chose that one too, it loaded for you, all right, some of the database stuff that we'll be working with. starting next week. So if I come through here and I go out, notice you might have a different version, but I've got Microsoft SQL Server 2019 in here, and I have Microsoft SQL Server Tools. All right. One of the things you do not get when you download that is this. It's something that's called Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. Sometimes it's abbreviated to SMMS. That you have to download separately. We'll look at that next week. Okay. All right. I'm going to bring this thing you see on the screen here. I'm going to bring it up again next week, so you will see it again. All right. If you say, wow, I don't have that database, etc. I don't have any of that stuff. One of the things I gave you also, okay, it's how to install SQL Server 2022 and SQL Server Management Studio. I gave you the link to that. We'll look at that next week. All right, let's see. Yeah. I should mention, you might see articles like this. All right. Every morning, and I pay $5 a month for this. I'm not trying to sell you anything, believe me. All right. But there is a site out there that I go to quite often. It's called medium.com. All right. And it has all sorts of stuff in it. For instance, if I put in here C# MySQL, something like that. I don't know if it'll find ever anything. A taste of MySQL in C, how to start practicing SQL at home for free, etc. So you can see there's a bunch of stuff in there. Well, since I pay $5 a month for this, some of the articles that are in here, you have to have a subscription in order to be able to see them, in order to be able to read them. All right. Some of the articles I provide for you are actually from here. All right. Literally, they're from medium.com. Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to do, that's everything that's in here. All right. It says here, after that, we're going to go through some additional SQL query examples. We're going to start doing that right now. All right. Once we get done with those, and I'm not going to be in any hurry to do those, but once we get done with those, all right, then we're going to look at both of these. Let's put it that way. Okay. So you've got two zip folders that I provided for you. The first one says sales orders mysql.zip, and the second one says mysql worksheets.zip. They actually work together. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, and we did this yesterday, is I'm going to bring up XAMPP or XAMPP, all right, depending on what you call it. All right. And, well, let's see, let me try that again. So let's see. I want the XAMPP control panel. All right, so that's what I want to bring up, and hopefully you remember this from yesterday. All right, and I left it up and going. I guess I should have closed it down, but I didn't. So this is already, yours might look like this. And if it does, click Start for Apache. That'll turn green. Click Start for MySQL. That'll turn green. And for the MySQL one, right next to that, click Admin. And that'll bring up PHP MyAdmin. This is what we worked with yesterday. We went in and created the Acme widget table, or database, I should say, and this students database. So we did this one yesterday, which had 3 tables in it, a department table, an employee table, and a state table. And we did the students one that had a program info table and a student info table in it. All right. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over to databases, click on that, and I want to create a database. And this is going to be one word. I'm going to run 2 words together. I'm going to capitalize the first letter of each word. So I'm going to call this sales orders, just like that. So I did a databases up here, and under the create database, all I'm typing in is sales orders. I'm going to leave this to the default. Once I click create, you're going to see I'm going to have another database in here called sales orders. And even though I capitalize this and this, it'll probably be all lowercase anyway. So create. There's my database, and there it is, sales orders. There is nothing in it. There is nothing in it. So we're going to fill that up right now. All right. And I've already got these two things that I sent you. I've already unzipped them, and I've got them here and someplace over here. But the first thing I want to do is I want to find this sales orders MySQL. All right. And the first thing I've got here is it says schema. And if I open that up, this has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different tables in it. All right. And before I do anything with it, which I'm going to do in just a minute, all right, I want to bring up a picture. Let's see, I think I've got a picture in here. There we go. This is what the database looks like. I'm going to cut it down so it all fits on a page there. So this is the sales orders database. All right. Now, if you asked me, for example, why does this have that shape and etc., I don't know. Why are there lines by the product and no lines here? I don't know. All right, good morning. What I'm doing right now is I am going over what I did so far, just so you know, is I went over the stuff that I sent yesterday as attachments. We just went over that. All right. And now I sent you 2 folders today. All right. The first folder was called Sales Orders with MySQL. We're looking at that one. This is the database, which right. Type it. You're just going to have to click a few buttons, and I'm going to show you what to click in just a minute. But if you notice in here, this database has 8 tables in it. There is a customers table, an employees table, an orders table, an order details table, a categories table, a products table, a product vendors table, and a vendors table. All right. Now, there's a lot of stuff I can say about this. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to confuse people. All right. Hopefully, this is the symbols in here are a little different, but you'll notice that some of these have, it looks like a railroad track there. And then on the other end, kind of looks like a circle with a bunch of lines coming out of it. All right. Yesterday, we looked at a one-to-many relationship where the one side was the key and the many side looked like an 8 turned sideways. Another way that you can represent this is the one side, all right, is basically the one side that's here is the one with a little railroad track in it. And the many side is the one with the circle. And these are actually referred to as crow's feet coming out of it. This is a crow's foot entity relationship diagram, or ERD. This says that every one customer can have 0, 1, or more orders. Every one employee can have 0, 1, or more orders. Every order can contain 0, 1, or more details. All right. Every product can basically have one or more order details. Every product can have 0, 1 or more vendors. Every category can be involved in 0, 1 or more products. And every vendor, all right, can have basically 0, 1 or more product vendors. Now, I'm going to mention a few terms here. It's not really important that you remember all this stuff, but hopefully at least, if I mention something and I explain it, you understand what I'm talking about. All right. Right now, if you take a look in here, if you look here, I'm going to make this bigger. But if we look at the products table and we look at the vendors table, if you look at the products table and you look at the vendors table, that's all of it. Let me make it a little smaller. There we go. There are no fields in common between the products table and the vendors table. There are no fields in common. I'm not asking you that. I'm telling you that. So this table right here and this table right here, there are no fields in common. So what we did was we created another table that took the primary key of this table and the primary key of this table. And we did that so we were now able to link the two tables by using this other table. And we even added a couple more fields to it, which is okay. Now the PK stands for primary key. The FK stands for foreign key. And the CPK, depending on the book you read, either stands for composite primary key or concatenated primary key. All right. But what I'd like you to understand from this is just the fact that all 8 of these tables are related to one another. So for instance, if I want to get something from customers and from vendors, all right, probably wouldn't want to, but if I did, I'd have to join together what? I'd probably join together looking at this, all right? I would join together customers with orders, with maybe order details and products and product vendors to get to vendors. The point is this: I can write very complex queries where if I wanted to, I could pull a single field out of each one of these 8 tables by joining all of them together. Now you might think, well, who'd ever want that? You'd be amazed at the stuff that different organizations in a company ask for. I know I've been there. All right. Marketing people look for some things, management people look for other things, etc. I've been asked to do some work with databases in the past that I'm like, who the heck would ever want this stuff? But you know what? As the saying goes, mine is not to question why. All right. Now, the people who are in charge of the database data in an organization, typically they're referred to as a database administrator. You don't leave Rankin Technical College with a 2-year associate degree and go to work for a big company as a database administrator. It's the kind of job you work your way up to. All right. I just want to make sure everybody gets that. All right. Now, the good news is, I think from the last time I read this, overall, around the United States, the average salary for a database administrator is between $175,000 and $200,000 a year. As the saying goes, that ain't chump change. So it can be a very rewarding job, both as a job and financially. Also, at big companies, you typically don't have just one database administrator. What if they quit and went to another job? What if they got ill? What if something happened to them? So the bigger the company, the chances are the more database administrators you're going to have. Now, I could take some time here and run over every one of these tables with you, but I'm not going to. Let's just pick two of them. All right, let's pick these two. All right, so we've got customers and we have employees. Why am I picking these two? What am I talking about? Well, if you look in here, here's customers. All right, I'm going to make this smaller so you can read all of it that's in here. So customers have a customer ID. This is going to be the primary key. I want to say that again. This is going to be the primary key. So each customer must have a different customer ID. Notice this field cannot be null. Primary keys can never be null. This will auto increment, which means that by default, the first customer ID will be 1. The next customer we add will have an ID of 2. The next one will be 3, etc. All right. And the customer ID field, again, as I already mentioned, is a primary key. You'll notice with most of the tables that are in here, the primary key is marked not null. The rest of the fields are all marked null, which means they can be left blank. Doesn't mean they are blank. It means they can be left blank. All right. So for the customers table, we've got a customer name, which is variable length between 1 and 25 characters for a first name, same for a last name. A street address between 1 and 50 characters, really 0 and 50, because if it was null, it wouldn't have a size. A city up to 30 characters. A state, now that says varchar, really probably should have said char, but it doesn't. All right. Now, I want to mention something to you because this is going to look a little funky. And guess what? It's going to look a little funky because it is. Years ago, I used a database from a book that I was using in a class. All right. And I believe, I don't know if the book, I'm sure the book is still around. And let's see. All right. It's called Database for Mere Mortals. Over the years, the title has changed, etc. But Michael Hernandez was the author. All right. So why am I telling you this? Because inside of this book, I don't know if it'll show it now, but inside of this book, if we go to the very end here, must have been here under this sample designs. One of the things that was in there was this sales orders database. Over the years, for lack of better words, I've kind of made it mine. I've made changes to it, etc. All right. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is I don't know why they broke up the phone number into an area code and made that a number and a phone number and basically made that a string. I didn't do this. This is just something that was done. Over the years, I probably should have changed it. I didn't change it. And the reason that I didn't change it is because, again, in here, it's two different fields. I probably should have made them both varchars, but I didn't. So you'll notice with customers, the area code is one field and the phone number is another field. But if we go to employees, it's all just one field. Again, there's a primary key, there's a primary key. What I'd like you to start hopefully getting used to is looking at something like this. Forget about this customer area code being an int, but realizing that the majority in most tables, the majority of the fields that you put in there are going to be strings, meaning they are either going to be a char if it's a fixed length or a varchar if it's a variable length. That's usually the way that it's going to be. All right. So if we go back and look at this, you'll notice that almost everything is a varchar. Almost everything is a varchar. I guess that for the employees, it is set up the same stupid way. For vendors, again, what's this? Text. Well, that's varchars can only be a certain size. I think it's 255 characters is the max size for a varchar. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. So if you had a web page that had a really, really big URL or something, you might want it to be more than that. So unlike a varchar, which maxes out at 255, text maxes out, I think it's 65,536 characters. But again, mostly varchar, mostly varchar. Now notice these. Product quantity. Product quantity. That is an int. That makes sense. You know, how many of these did you buy? You don't buy 12 and a half bicycles, for example. You buy 12 or you buy 13. This category ID that you see right here, that's a foreign key. That's this field right here. So you're able to link together the categories table and the products table. And if we go back and look at that picture, there's categories and there's products, and you can see, again, they both have category ID in common with one another. What I'm showing you here, I'm not trying to waste my time or your time, but I'm trying to explain to you typically the process that you go through with database design. All right. And I mean, people, again, the database administrators that I mentioned to you previously, they're in charge of the data. They don't. And I'll always remember this. I was a fairly new programmer for AT&T Bell Laboratories. All right. And I had to go in and I had to get a new field put into a database. To do that, it took a while to figure out even who to talk to, but I had to talk to a database administrator. And I went over to talk to him, pleaded my case basically, and I got done. And I thought, you know, that makes sense. I think he's going to say okay. But I got done, and he was like, "No, I don't think so." And I was like, "What do you mean?" "No, I don't think we need that." So I had to go to my boss, who went to his boss, who had to go to the boss's boss of this guy to finally get it done. But their database administrators are gatekeepers. They're in charge of what gets in, what doesn't get in, etc. Database designers are when you come in and you're going to design a new database table or a new database period. They're the kind of people, that's the work they do. They can also be very well compensated. All right. So you see with products, again, we just looked at that one. We've got a product vendor. This product ID is this one. All right. And this vendor ID is somewhere in here. There is this one. All right. And then you'll notice, what does this mean? Product vendor wholesale price, which is way too big a name, but it's okay. Decimal 15. All right, what the heck does that mean? Well, literally what it means, I'm going to bring this up here. Get rid of this. Something I was working on yesterday. And I'm going to make this big enough where you can read it. All right. So where you've got this here that says 15 I'm going to put in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that 15 like that, that's the maximum number of positions you can have in here. The 2 means there are 2 of those positions come after the decimal point. So if I do this and put a comma here, I have to stretch that out a bit, and a comma here, and a comma here, and a comma here. Now, that wholesale price is a big honking number because this is $999,999,999.99. This is 999,999,999,999,999.99, which I think makes this 9,999,999,999,999,999.99. All right. Now, why would they make it that big? I don't know. I didn't. That's just the requirements that were given. You'll notice in the orders table, there are some date time fields. That's the date something was ordered and the date something was shipped. All right. That's one of the things I had to change because this book now, the copy of it that I have is probably 15 years old. And I've updated the order date and the ship date in the orders table to 2022 and 2021. The only reason I didn't use 2023 is some of them work with dates in September, October, etc., that haven't happened yet. Then finally, we've got order details. And notice order ID, which comes from here, product ID, which comes from here. So you can see order details is one of these join tables that again is going to allow us to bring together the orders table and the products table. And if we take a look over here, there's order details, and there's the orders table, and there's a products table. And you notice you cannot directly go and link orders and products because they don't have any fields in common. But you can link orders with products if you do it through the order details table. So if I wanted to get the order number and order date from here, the product number and the product name from here, all right, then I'd have to join all 3 of these tables together with one another to be able to do that. All right. And like I said, that's what I'm trying to do. All right. So I'm going to try this. We're going to see whether or not it's going to work. But this thing that's right here, this file, all right, it's called 00schema.sql. You have this file. This is what I sent to you today in the folder that's zipped. It's called SalesOrders-MySQL. So I'm going to come in here and try this now. I'm going to come in. I'm right here. Okay. I am in my sales orders folder, and I'm going to try to import. It asks for the file to import. I'm going to choose the file from my desktop, from this folder that's called SalesOrders-MySQL 00schema.sql. If this works, I will now have 8 tables here. There are currently no tables in there. If it doesn't work, we'll have to figure out why. So I go down to here, I find the Go button or the Import button, click Import. Green is always good. Looks like everything got in there, and you'll notice in here now, I have a categories table, a customers table, an employees table, an order details table, an orders table, a products table, a product vendors table, and a vendors table. They're all in there. So if I come back and I go to structure, and I can now, these are my tables, I can click on any one of them, and it shows what's in there. Now there's no data in there yet. And again, what we just brought in, this file right here, this is database schema. All right. We are creating tables with a create table command. This is one of those DDL commands that I talked about with you yesterday. It is a data definition language command. It works with schema. When you say create, you have to let the system know, what do you want to create? I want to create a table. I want to create a table. And that's what we're doing in all of these. All right. So we've got all that stuff done. All right. Now we want to come in and we want to start putting in the actual data. So let me open these up. I'm going to grab 01 through 08. Now I may be able to put them in there at one time, but they're so voluminous. There's some of these are really, 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 really big. All right. So I'm going to start and just do them in order. So I showed you the schema. It was number 1. That's real small. These are our categories. Okay. You'll notice we have 6 categories: accessories, bikes, clothing, components, car racks, and wheels. So these are our categories. If I look in here right now and I say select star from categories, it gives me nothing. There aren't any because we haven't put any in yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to import here, and it says import into the table categories. All right. And I'm going to go to choose file, and I'm going to find this 01 categories.sql. And then I'm going to tell it to import. And it looks like it worked. How do I know? I go back here and I run the same query again. Select star from categories. And now you'll notice I have 6 categories. Each of these 6 categories has both a category ID and a category description. There still is no data in my customers, employees, order details, orders, products, product vendors, or vendors tables. There's no data in those. All right, we're going to add those in just a minute. All right, so next let's go do customers. I'm not going to do them in the exact order they are here, and I'll explain why in just a bit. But let's do customers next. So again, if I come out here and do a select star from customers and click go, there's nothing in there because I haven't added anything. So I'm going to go to import and choose the file to import, which is 02 customers. There it is. SQL files should end with .sql with that extension. I put it capitalized. It doesn't have to be. And now I'm going to tell it to import. Now, there's about, it was either 20 or 30 some customers. I don't remember. I think it was like 28 of them, but we'll see. Maybe it's 27 according to this. But now if I come back and I say select star from customers, it was empty previously. And now you'll notice I have a bunch of customers, and each customer has an ID, a first name, a last name, an address, a city, a state, a zip code, an area code, and a phone number. So we've got all that in there. All right, the next I'm going to do is the employees. So I'm going to click on employees. I'm again going to say import. All right. And choose file. And I'm going to choose 03. All right, 03 employees. There it is. I'm going to tell it to import. All right, let's see how many employees we have. I'm going to go back to here, select star from employees, and let's run this query. And you'll notice we have 8 employees. Again, each employee has what? an ID, a first name, a last name, a street address, a city, a state, a zip code, an area code, and a phone number. All right. Okay. Now, next we've got, I'm not going to do these in order. I'm not going to do these in this order. Why? Because really order details is information about orders. So I should put in orders before I put in order details. Product vendors is information about products and vendors. So I should put products and vendors in before I put in product vendors. If I go back and look in here, you'll notice if I look here, I have so far put in 00, which was my schema, 01, which was my category, 02, the customers, and 03, the employees. The next one that's shown here is vendors. So I'm going to do that one next. So it'll be vendors, and then products, and then product vendors. So let's go to vendors. All right, click import. Choose my file to import, which again is vendors. Go down and tell it to import. And according to this, I've got a bunch of vendors now. Well, how many? Let's look. Looks like I've got 10 vendors. All right, and I can either make this smaller or I can drag this over. You'll notice some of them do have a web page, email address, and some don't. The ones that don't, we put nothing in there. So the value that got put in there was null. All right. Okay. So I believe the next one was products. So I'm again going to go over to, with products, I'm going to go over to import into products, the file. We just did vendors. Again, the next one is products. Tell it to import. And according to this, we've got about 40 products. All right, we can quickly take a look at them here. And there they are. Now, I made it small, but you can see hopefully everything. Product ID, product name. We don't have any descriptions, so don't worry about those. We've got an image, and it's just a URL from where the image is. The product price, so how much each costs, how many we have on stock, and what category they're in. This category ID is 1 through 6, because when we first put in categories, we had 6 of them. All right, so now that we've got this, we can now go out to product vendors and we can import, and that's our next file to import, and that is 06, so 6 of 8 product vendors.sql, and I can click import, and you'll notice they're going up. Now we've got about 100, or just about 100, 90 or so it looks like. But if we look, you're going to notice this is getting bigger. Now, you say, no, there's not 100 there. Remember, we can go to the next page and look at more. We can go to the next page and look at more, etc. All right. So we now have 6 of our 8 things put in here. I believe the next one is orders. So I went to orders. I'm clicking import. All right. I'm going to choose my file to import, which is 07 orders. And I'm going to tell it to import. This is going to take a little while longer. Not real long, but it's up. Notice we have almost 950 orders. The bigger the file you import, the more time it's going to take, and that should just make sense. And if I go back in here, we'll just look at the first page. There's our orders. And again, I've changed the dates on there to 2022 and some of the ones near the bottom to 2021. These customer IDs, remember we had about 20 or 30 customers. And these employee IDs, we had 8 employees. You'll notice that the customer ID started at 1,000 and the employee ID started at 700. That's okay. Rather than starting at 1. All right. We can have it start with whatever we want to. All right. Finally, we've got our order details in here. That's the only one that's still empty. Okay. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to import into there my last file, which is 08 order details. Now here there's, I think, about almost 4,000. So again, this will take the longest to load. Won't be real long, 5 to 10 seconds, probably. There it is, 3,975 executed. And if I come back, we just look at the first page. There they are. All right. So as of right now, what we have done today so far is we have come in and we first, when we started, we came in and I went over what I considered to be the most important things in here. All right, we probably spent 15 to 25 minutes on that. This, as it says, is a roadmap. I referenced it, spent literally a couple minutes on it. These are both PDFs that are cheat sheets, and I wanted to show you the similarities between two different RDBMSs, or two different relational database management systems, those being MySQL and SQL Server. I never mentioned this, or I haven't mentioned this. SQL Server is owned by Microsoft. It works the most seamless with Microsoft products like Visual Studio. MySQL is owned by Oracle, which is another RDBMS. MySQL used to be kind of like the Green Bay Packers. It was a publicly owned entity, but it was sold off. All right. Now, MySQL is still free. SQL Server they have a version that's free, but you can also get versions of MySQL and SQL Server that you pay for, which means that you get unlimited support. So if you have a problem with something, they're willing to come in and help you. All right. I did not go over the Acme widget, DB schema, and that from yesterday because that's what we did. I did mention that yesterday I promised to give you that information and I forgot to do so. So what I did was I've got it right here in this folder that I created called Imported into XAMPP. All right. And I don't even think I ever did that. So let's see. Just grab that. A lot faster. Right. So let me browse. Let me find that. All right, there's the imported into XAMPP stuff. It's only 4K. So now you've got that sent to you as well. All right. So we've got that done. All right. And when we got done with all of that stuff, that was everything in here. We're going to go over SQL Server Management Studio next week, so I'm not talking about that now. Then I quickly noted 3 tutorials that are all available on W3 Schools. They don't have a specific one for SQL Server. They have an SQL tutorial, an SQL keyword reference, and a MySQL tutorial. In addition, and we'll talk about this next week, if you have problems loading some of the software that we're going to be working with next week, there's a video that goes through it. All right. Then it says, after that, we will go through some additional MySQL query examples. Well, what we did so far, what we have done is we took the time to set up the database. All right. And then we imported into the database the schema and the 8 data files that go along with the 8 tables that were set up in the schema. So what I'm going to do next is we've got in here the other thing that I sent you, which is a folder called MySQL Worksheets. All right. And we've got these 4 worksheets. All right. So what I'm going to do after the break is I'm going to start going through these. All right. We're going to do them in order. So we'll do number 0. And I'm going to go through. I'm going to write the queries for you. All right. Then we'll do number 1, then number 2, then number 3. All right. And not all of them, but at least some of them have the picture of the database that we just created. All right. So we're going to start here. And I'm not going to read this to you or anything. All right. I've got 912 right now. So what I'm going to do is it is close enough to 915. All right. Actually, I think my clock's a little slow. I think it is almost 9:15. But we're going to come back at 9:30 on this clock right here in 17 minutes. I want to give people the break. And then after that, we're just going to go over as much of the material for going through and writing these queries as possible. All right. Then tomorrow, what I hope to do, if I can get my program to work, is kind of meld what we're doing right now with the C# we've been working on all semester and write a GUI application where we're going to be able to work with this database and do things very similar, all right, to the queries, but do them in a C# program where we'll be able to add things, remove things, update things, and look at things. So again, let's come back. I'm going to leave. I need a different drink. So let's come back, please, at 9:30 on this clock right here. So I will see you in about 15 minutes. Thanks. All right, it is 9:30, so I'm going to start back up again. Now, when we read these, it says, show the associated queries for each question below. Rate each query in the quote best way possible. In other words, don't just do it. Think about what you're doing. It says, I realize some of the queries may look a little weird, random, or whatever, but please do them anyway. Now, before I came to Rankin, I taught at another institution. And at that institution, we had an entire database class, and that's where I developed these queries. I did make some changes. As you can see, I've got Rankin instructors in here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add 3 records into the customer table. All right, these 3 right here. So we want to add Evan Gudmisted, Charles Corrigan, and Jeff Scott. So we want to add those 3 records. Now, there's different. I'm going to show you 2 ways, the same thing, but I want to show you, I'm going to show you what I consider to be the poorer way of doing things, and then the right way of doing it. I'm going to show you both in just a second. But the first thing I want to do is I want to go back into here, and I want to look, because we're adding 3 new customers. All right, so in my customers right now, if I bring that up, I can see in here when I look, it looks like I have 27 customers. All right, it looks like right now I have 27 customers. It even says 27 total. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I consider to be the poorer way first of going in and adding somebody. And Evan, I think, was first. So we'll add. So let me type. I think I can make this bigger. So let me do that. Not that big. Oh, about like that, let's say. So insert into customers. And again, remember that I am capitalizing keywords completely, and I'm using lowercase on everything else. So again, this is the poorer way of doing it, but I think it'll work just fine. So I'm going to put in here now the fields. So there was a customer ID, a customer first name, a customer last name, remember this, the whole thing, regardless of how I'm putting this in here, this all is case insensitive. All right, so even if I change these or whatever, it's not going to matter. So we've got those. I'm not done yet. We have the customer street address, the customer city, the customer state, the customer zip code, the customer area code, And finally, the customer phone number. All right. So that's what I want to insert into. Then I come in here and I say values. And this is where the data is going to actually go. So values. And I'm separating this into multiple lines. It's not mandatory at all that you do that. So in parentheses, so I'm going to put it over a few lines, but I'm going to put it in parentheses. And first, we need to put in that customer ID. Well, since our last one was 27, I'm going to put 28 in here. The name we're supposed to put in is Evan for the first name, Gudmisted for the last name. The address was, we were told to make it 4431 Finney Avenue. All right, the city is St. Louis. The state is Missouri. The zip code is 63113. And I'm going to put the rest because so it doesn't whip off the page here. The area code, remember that's an int, is 314. And the actual phone number is 286 3691. All right. Now I'm actually, doesn't like something. So let's see what doesn't it like. Ending quote was expected. So I'm missing a quote someplace. There I've got them. There I have them. There I have them. There I'm missing it after St. Louis. All right. Now just play a matching game here. 28 is the customer ID. Evan is the customer first name. Gudmisted is the customer last name. 4431 Finney Avenue is the customer street address. St. Louis is the customer city. Mo is the customer state. 63113 is the customer zip code. 314 is the customer. Remember, it's an int. And 2863691 is the customer phone number. Now, I'm going to do the next one, and it's going to look very similar to this, but I want to, in fact, I'm going to copy this part to the clipboard. Why is this a poor way of doing it? Well, the answer is, remember, this was set up as what's called an auto increment field. I shouldn't have to put in the ID number. That should be put in for me automatically. So that's how we're going to put in the other two records in a minute. Let's see if I made any mistakes or if this works. All right, so I come down here and I find the go button. There it is, and click. Now, one row inserted means it worked. So I'm going to show the query box. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to select star from customers. All right, run this query. And when I do, I'm going to go over to the second page and see if Evan has been added. All right, notice that went through 25. I should now have 28 in here, and Evan should be the 28th. And as you can see, he is. It's all the information that we just added for him. All right, now I'm going to come in and I'm going to add Charles, Corrigan, and me. And I'm going to do it what I think to be the better way. So let me grab what we had in here before. But I'm not going to add the customer ID now. So I'll have first name, last name, street address, city, state, zip code, area code, and phone number. All right. Okay. I'm going to just totally leave that out. I'm not going to have an ID, and it may work or it may give me an error. We'll see in just a moment. So the next one again will be Charles, Corrigan. All right. His address will be 751 Parr Road, same as mine. And that is in Wentzville. Missouri. 63385. 314 and 286. I don't know if these are right numbers or not, to be honest with you. 444, or no, I'm sorry. 4848. Now, again, I don't know if this is going to work. It may want a null in here to represent the customer ID. I don't know, but let's try to run it and see what happens. And it says it worked. It says I now have 29 in there. All right, let me copy this because mine's almost going to be identical. So I'm going to copy that. And now let's come in and run. Select star from customers. In fact, let's do it and we'll say where customer ID is equal to, I think we said his was 29. So let's see. And there's Charles Corrigan, 751 Parr Road, Wentzville, Missouri, 63385 314 20 or 286 4848. All right. Now, just so you're aware of this, I'm going to come back to here, get rid of this. This is the query we just put in right here, right there. I could have done this, put a comma in here, and then in another set of parentheses, I could have put my information. So I could list multiple records if I wanted to. All right, so let's just make these changes. So this will be me. And the only thing that'll change will be this, and mine is 3675. This should work, I would sure think. All right, so let's do this. Let's show our query box. And there are now, I think, 30. So let's select star from customers where customer ID is greater than 25. And there you can see, along with Kirk DeCrosse and Luke Patterson, is Evan, Charles, and myself. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save all this stuff and I will put it out there, okay, in a GitHub repo. It's not going to be a C program, but I'm going to put it out in there anyway. All right, so we've now got that. So that's first one. Okay. Second, you've been asked to do further updates to the customers table. First, show the query to list each customer's current state, current city, state, I'm sorry, customers' current city, state, and zip code, but only for customers who are in one of these cities. All right. Then, using the results of that query, make changes. So I'm changing zip codes. Okay. Well, first of all, let's write this. Okay, let's write this thing in here. Now, we can come back to here then, and let's write that, let's give them nicer names. So let's select start with customer city, and we'll say as city. Customer state as state. Customer zip code as zip code. from customers. So those are the fields I want to select. From followed by the table I want to select them from, which is customers. All right, but I only want to do it, and I'm going to show you two ways of doing this. I want to say this again. I want to show you two ways of doing this. All right. So I can say, this is the hard way. I can say where customer city equals Austin or customer city equals Palm Springs or customer city equals San Diego. Now, could I have made a mistake? Of course, it's me. I can tell you I could have easily made a mistake, but let's see if I did make any or not. All right, you'll notice we get them back. San Diego, Austin. Now, San Diego's in there twice. You can see that it's in there twice. And Palm Springs isn't listed. So with what I just showed you here, all right, what I just showed you right here, I think I got it. There to go. All right. We do rather have some repetition. Are there ways around that? Yeah, I think if we put the word distinct in here, which you have to spell right. All right. So I think with that word in there like that, now we only get 3 back. All right. But it's possible we could have had a different zip code. San Diego could have easily have more than one zip code. I don't know if it does or not. I don't care. All right. So let's go back and write this in a better way. All right. So again, there is nothing wrong with doing it like this, but it's kind of ugly. You can't say where customer city equals Austin or Palm Springs or San Diego. You can't do that. But you can do this. You can say where customer city in, then in parentheses, you can put Austin, comma, Palm Springs, comma, San Diego. You may or may not agree with this, but that actually reads a little slicker, for lack of better words. All right. And I think we were supposed to put in Seattle also. I guess I left that one out. Yeah. And I didn't put it. There we go. All right. Let's see if it finds it just like it did before. But now again, we've added Seattle. And there they are. And for whatever reason, it found Palm Springs now, but San Diego, Seattle, Austin, San Diego again. Now you'll notice that San Diego has got the same zip code for both. All right. Seattle has got one zip code for here and another one here. And I believe I actually looked up online and got valid zip codes for each one of these cities. Maybe I'm wrong. I believe I did that though. Okay, so that was the first one. Now we want to do updates. All right. And we want to change or update the zip code for these 4 cities. For San Diego, for Seattle, for Austin, and for Palm Springs. All right, so let's write that query right now. Since we're going to be changing something, we're updating. We want to update the customers table. Okay. And it's set the customer zip code equal to, well, let's just do them in order. 73301, and that is where the customer city is equal to Austin. Now, I also did this, and I said, and the customer state is equal to Texas. And I don't know if you think about that, if you can figure out why I did it like that. What if there, well, I don't know if there had and out, and there happened to be in Austin, Missouri, or in Austin, California, or in Austin, Michigan, etc., it would change all of them. Here I'm saying they'll only change the zip code to 73301 if the city is Austin and the state is Texas. Now, I believe I can bundle all of these together. I don't want to do that. There's a chance I could have screwed this up. All right, so I'm going to copy all this. All right, and I'm going to run the query. Says that it worked, but let's go back to here and then let's just select. Let's just select the, how about this? Customer zip code, customer city, and the customer state from customers. All right, let's run that. Now, when we do this, let's look for Austin, 73301, which is just what we changed it to. I'm looking here, I don't see another Austin. Oh, that's Auburn. So let's look on the next page. And that's it. And these are, oops, these are Evan, Charles, and me. So if yours look different, that would be why. All right, so let's write the other two then. So now we want to go and change. This should be 92292. And that is where the city is equal to Palm Springs. And the state is equal to California. All right. And I'm going to run that. And it says it worked. All right. I'm going to do it again. And this time I'm going to choose Sandy. Oops. And it's 91911. And it's San Diego, California. And then finally, I've got 98117 for Seattle. And we'll run that one. All right. And to check to see if it worked, all I'm going to do is I'm going to say select customer city, customer state, customer zip code, customers. All right. And let's run that. All right. And we see our San Diego is 91911 as it should be. Our Seattle is 98117 as it should be. Here's another San Diego that's correct. There's a Palm Springs, that's correct. Another Seattle that's correct. All right, that should be it. So it looks like that worked. All right. Now, the next thing that we want to do on here, according to our list, show the query to use a left join to search for any or all customers who do not have any orders. I will tell you, every customer in the database has placed orders except for the 3 we just added, those being Evan, Charles, and myself. And as it says there, if you did the query correctly, the only records that were probably returned were the 3 records we added up above. All right. Then it says, using the results of this query, show the query to remove me from here. All right. So first of all, let's go do this. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a couple things in here. All right. Some of which we've talked about before, some of which we have not. So let me go back into here and go into my SQL window. I'm going to use concat. I'm going to glue together the customer's first name. All right. And I'm going to glue together with that a blank space and the customer last name. And I'm going to call that cust name. All right. I'm calling that cust name. All right. And then to that, I'm going to add what? The order number. Now we're going to have a problem. I'm going to get an error, but we'll fix it in a minute. All right. Or maybe we won't. I'm going to put in here order number. All right. And notice it doesn't find it because it's looking in the customer table. But if I go into orders, I can put in orders dot order number. There is no order number. It's really the order ID, I believe, is what we want here. All right. And we'll do that as order number. All right. Now we're getting errors here. It doesn't understand what we're doing. Why? Because we haven't picked out tables yet. So from customers, and we'll call the customers table C for customers. All right. And we're going to do a left join, which means show me everything from the customers table and only things from the orders table that match. So left join orders O on C dot customer ID equal O dot customer ID. And I want to do it. Now, this is a new thing. Where is null O dot order I want to see what's in the orders table. This isn't going to work. I'm going to put a number in here. I'm going to get an error, and it's okay. All right, so what doesn't it like here? This ending quote was expected, so I'm missing a quote someplace. Customer name. So his name is customer name, his order number. Well, it already says it's not going to work, so let's just do this. We're going to fix it in a moment. Ending quote near something at position 221. Oh, I see it. Notice I use both a and a double quote. There we go. That fixed it. Now I'm probably going to still get an error. So let me copy this. Yep. And it says you have an error in your syntax. All right, let's look. The error is it's confused with this order stuff. So I'm going to copy that, make sure I've got it. Now I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to go over to my orders table. I don't need that anymore. So in my orders table, I've got an order ID, an order date, a customer ID. I don't have an order number, but I do have an order ID, which I think we can use for our order number. All right, so let me go back to here, put this in. So let's break this query quickly down. All right. We don't want every customer, every order they have to just have their name in there once, their first name, a space, and their last name, and their order number. So it's just the first one it finds from the customers table, and join onto that the orders table where the ID is the same, but only if the order ID is null. All right. Let's run it and see if we get me, Evan, and Jeff, and Charles. Well, it doesn't like it. Use of as custom name, it doesn't like. I think it wasn't even that. I think it didn't like that. I can still put that in there because I've got 1, 2 left parentheses, and now I've got 1, 2 right parentheses. So let's run that. Still doesn't like something. Okay. It may not want that as put in the parentheses. Still doesn't like it. Unknown column orders.id in the list. Order ID. And there I've got orders ID. So that'll have to be O dot order ID. Let's run it again. Oh my goodness. Unknown column, O dot or, oh, do I have a period in there? Right again. And there you go. Doesn't look like I did it right though, because we've got order number null for everybody. So let's look at what we did. All right. Current selection does not contain a unique column. So let's see if we can fix that. All right. Last name is customer. Let's do it like this. I'm going to grab all of this and I'm going to copy to the clipboard. And then I'm going to break this down. Let's see if this worked. Okay. Let's just start by seeing if that part worked. All right, there's my customer names. And there shouldn't be any repetition. Evan, Charles, and me. Okay. All right, so they're all in there. I get all 30 customers, so that part of it's correct. So this part is correct. Do customers have an order number? No. Add this again. Does order details have an order number? No, they just have an order ID. So the order ID must be the order number. Okay. All right, it's choking here, I think. So let's run it like this. Nope, it's still got null for all those, so that doesn't like that either. Let's try getting the distinct out of there. Okay. Still null. They shouldn't be. The only ones that should be coming are these three with null, but it's giving me everything as a null. Okay, I've run this exercise before and it's worked, so I'm trying to figure out why it's not. Let's try doing an inner join here. Now we're getting nothing back. Select concat. First name space last name is customer name. Customers left join orders on. Well, that's what I actually had for an answer, but I'm getting null for everything. I don't know why. But rather than having you watch me work my way through this, so this is, I'll have to check on that one. Check on worksheet number, worksheet 0, number number 3. Okay, there's a problem with that. Now, the other part of the problem said that you were supposed to delete me from the customers table. Let's do that one. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do this. I can say delete from customers, and I can say where. I could say first name equal Jeff and last name equal Scott, but if it did turn out that there was more than one Jeff Scott in there, it would remove all of them. Or we could say, the way I do it would be where customer ID is equal to 30. That's my customer ID. Says, are you sure you want to do this? Okay. Now it says one row was deleted. So let's go back and let's select star and see if I'm going. Should be. So when I go to the second page, I should not be there any longer. And as you can see, I'm not. All right. So next we want to go in and we want to add. All right, we want to add, we want to alter the table. Let's go back and look in here. We want to alter the table and add a new field to the end of the employees table. All right. And I gave you a link in there you could look at that might help you. So we want to add a new field called emp hire date. Not a great name, but in fact, let's call it employee hire date because all of these are employee, I believe. Well, let's look. We'll look and see the way that it's set up now. So let's go over structure and let's go over to employees. And we'll go over to structure now. And they all have employee in front of them, not emp, like I put here. So even though it doesn't hurt to do it that way, let's make this employee hire date. And it's not mandatory, but I'm going to do that. Okay. And then we want to add these. All right. Okay. So let's go back into here and do that. So I'm going to alter the table. And what table? The employees table. And what do I want to do? I want to add. All right. I don't know if it needs the word column in here. Employee hire date. And it should be of type date. Now, if this chokes, it won't like the word column. So let's see. All right. Well, now we'll know whether or not this worked right away, because if I select star from employees and I now have a hire date at the end, there it is. And it's null for each employee because I just added it. All right. So we want to update each one of the employees now. All right. So they all have a hire date. Okay, so let's go and do that. And there's 8 employees, so I'm going to do 8 update statements. Okay, so that's the first one. That's Ann Patterson. Notice the way the dates are put in here. All right. They're put in as 4 numbers for the year, followed by a hyphen, followed by 2 digits for the month, followed by the hyphen, followed by 2 digits for the day. All right. We're going to be doing this 8 times, so let's just copy that. It says it worked. Let's just put all of them in here. So this next one is supposed to be 2011, 1111, and that is for employee ID 702. So 2 of them are done. Let's see if we can do some combining here. I don't know if this will work or not. So next is going to be employee 703, and their date was 2007, 12/13. And that's where the ID is 703. I don't know, can I say and set I know there's a way to do, let's see if we can find it. Multiple updates. So they wanted this similar to what we're doing here. Oh, that's a pain in the butt. So yeah, you can do it that way. So I can do this, I can do whens and else's. To me, that's just too easy to make a mistake in something like that. So I'm not going to do that. All right. I'm going to come back to here, get rid of that, and come back to here. So there was 703. $704 was 2,919. $705 is 2010. Okay. 706 is 2,919. 2007, or I'm sorry, 707 is 2015 22. And then finally, the last one for 708 is 2017 918. And run that. Looks like it works. So let's select star from employees. Click go, and let's check the hire dates. Whoa, didn't work. Not showing any of them. Why would that be? Update employees, set the hire date equal to that, where the ID is equal to that. Let's just look at this one right here. So this is employee 703. So this is Matt Berg. Okay. It says 0 rows affected. Well, it doesn't like something I'm doing. It's real easy to fix. I think I already know what it is, but let's look. And it was very stupid on my part. Notice I didn't start with 700. So all the queries were correct, but I was putting the wrong number in there. Fantastic. So for instance, this one should have been 3, not 703. Now if I run this, boy, I wish I would have looked. It says 1 row affected. If I show the query box, grab that, and I select star from employees, now one employee should have a hire date. And there it is. So let me quickly fix these and then we'll just go on. Okay. See, all of these should say 1 row affected. If I'd been smart enough to look there before, I would have probably been able to figure out what the problem was earlier. Three we've already changed. So Yeah. And one more to go. All right, so finally now if I come back and I say select star from employees, I now should have dates for hire dates for each one of my employees. And you'll notice, indeed I do. Okay, sorry about that. Took a little longer than I thought it would. All right. All right, so the next one that's in here, kind of a neat one. It says write a query that shows each employee first name, last name, hire date, and the number of days they've been employed. Use the MySQL cur date function for the current date. We haven't looked at that at all. So I'm going to come in here just to show you this. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in here MySQL cur date and hit enter. And you'll notice that the first thing that comes up is a W3 schools, but I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to look at the second one, which is dev.mysql.com. This is the developer page for MySQL, and you can find every single function and everything that exists in the language under dev.mysql.com. Well, we're all right, so cur date returns the current date as a value. Okay, so we want to know how many days each one of these people have been employed. Okay, and it really isn't that hard to do. All right, so I'm going to write down the query for you so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so what I want in here is the employee's first name. And we'll put that as first name. The employee last name. We'll put that, and notice as, I should have capitalized it because it's a keyword, but it doesn't matter. And their hire date. Hire date. Now I'm going to run this, and that is date diff. So subtract from the current date, subtract from there the employee hire date. All right, and we're going to save that as number days employed. And we want to do this from employees. So there it is. Should work. A lot of things should work and don't. So you can see Ann Patterson, 2010. So she's got 4680. And the biggest probably is going to be this one, Carol Viscas. So she's been there 23 years almost. So 8,344 days. And David Viscas was hired the same day, and they're both 8344. All right. 2017 was Susan McLean. So she's only been there about what? Not even 6 years. So she's 2136. Kind of neat, the built-in functions, etc., that you can use with some of this stuff. And now the next problem that's in here is one of those that I mentioned to you before on here, where it's kind of a stupid one. Should write a query that shows the total number of days between the oldest hired date employee and the newest hired date employee. Also write an aggregate query, all right, that shows the earliest hired date, the latest hired date, so who was hired first, who was hired last, the average hired date, and unique hired dates. So we'll use the word distinct in there. All right. I don't even think I ended up doing this. Oh, I guess I do have them all. Let's see if this works first of all. So select, we don't need any of this stuff. We are going to select the max employee hire date as oldest hire. The minimum employee hire date as, and it doesn't matter in here if I use double quotes or single quotes, as newest hired, and the date difference between these two. Between what? The max employee hire date and the min employee hire date. Like that. As I just called it diff days from employees. So this should give us that person who was in 2000. This should give us the one in 2017, and hopefully that's going to do the difference between them. All right, so there is the oldest. There is the newest. In fact, I did them backwards when you look at this. The oldest should have been, let's go back and rewrite this correctly. The max should have been the newest hire. The min should have been the oldest hire. All right, let's look at it now. All right, so there's the newest hire. There's the oldest hire. Between them, there are about 17 years. I think you'd agree with that. All right, so if I went and said, come on, what are you doing? If I went in there and brought up the, not this, if I brought up the calculator and I said 365.25, we're counting for leap years, times 17, we would get 6,209. All right, so that's pretty close. All right, so that is the number of days that are between the two of them. All right. Tell you what, I'm going to go and finish this one and we'll take another break. So number 7, the next one here, says we want to do another altered table. So the product vendors table, we want to put a thing in there that says expected delivery deliver date. All right. And that's in the product vendors table. So let's start by going to the product vendors table. And you'll notice that if I go into the structure, I got product ID and I got vendor ID. Everything else starts with product vendor. And I guess this one, I didn't ask for that to happen. So let's. Okay, so I want the structure, but of product vendors. And they're there. Okay. All right. So this is going to be an alter table command. So I'm going to say alter table. What table? The product vendors table. All right. And I want to add a column. And it's supposed to be called, let's call it what these all are. So product vendor delivery date, which will be of type date. All right, see if that worked. Didn't like it. Sales orders, no, it's telling me I'm in a different table. All right, so let's go to our product vendors table. Now let's go to SQL and try running that again, which I probably didn't save. I did not. So alter table product why it's not showing this. Now it should work though. So alter table product vendors. Oh, there was no underscore in there. That was what the error was. So add column product vendor delivery date. So type date. And that worked. So now if I select star from product vendors, all right, I should have that new field in there. And there it is. Product vendor delivery date. They're all null. That's okay. All right. So show the query to fill this in by adding the delivery date to the current date. So this will be a date add. All right. So let's run that one. Why it's doing this now. It's not showing me everything, and I've got to keep going back like this. This is silly. Knowing my luck, I probably screwed this up, but let's check. All right, so when you look here, this should be 7 days from today, 9 days from today, 10 days from today. So it's working. All right. All right. Again, you're going to get all these. And again, I'm on number 8 of 12. And when I get to 12, we'll take another break. Okay. All right. All right. So next, number 8. Show a query that provides the following information: the product name, the quantity ordered, the retail price, and the wholesale price. All right. That's going to involve us joining together 3 tables: the products table, the order details table, and the product vendors table. All right, sort the results based on the quantity ordered, descending order, so the highest first, retail price, descending order, so the most expensive, and wholesale price, also descending. All right, let's go do that one. Now I'm going to use the old syntax here because it reads much easier. So I want to do this where okay. Let's see if I did that one right. And I've got an error. I'll be back in just 1 minute. Sorry, I got a phone call. I apologize. right, sorry, I'm trying to reschedule a dental appointment that I accidentally scheduled during last time. So let's see. OD, it doesn't like the OD quantity ordered. So let's look at that. Doesn't like this one right here. So right now it doesn't know retail price. Problem is, over the years, I've changed some of these names foolishly, but I've done it anyway. Okay. Good golly, PV wholesale price. And there it goes. So I've now got information from 3 tables. There's the product name from the products table, the order details from the order detail table, and one of these is from the product vendors table, I believe. All right, but it worked. And let me take that. And that is number 8. Okay. All right, so going on, let's finish these up so we can take another break. Number 9, rewrite the query above. Use an if statement to check if the quantity ordered, to check on the quantity ordered. If that quantity is greater than or equal to 5, add a new calculated column called updated wholesale price, which is the wholesale price times 75%. All right, so in other words, if they buy more than 5, they get a 25% discount. Okay. So the good news is all of this stuff up to here, and we can use the stuff that's here too, but I want to put some stuff in between here. All right, so if quantity ordered, which is OD dot order detail quantity ordered, if that is greater than or equal to 5, comma, round PV dot that wholesale price as updated wholesale price. Okay, that should be it then. So this is, if it works, is number 9 of 12. Of course it doesn't work. Doesn't like that if statement. And I may know what that is already. Let's see. Well, I did this is incomplete. So round this. This is all goofed up. what do I want to round here? I didn't give it anything to round. PV dot product vendor wholesale price times 0.75, put that to 2 decimal places. An alias was previously found. So there's wholesale price, and that's updated wholesale price. Well, I think they want us to use wholesale price again. In fact, let's not do anything in here. We won't put anything in there. Just give it its ugly name like that. Doesn't like the if statement. Didn't think this would take nearly this long, but I didn't realize how screwed up my worksheets were. So good golly, because that looks like it's correct. Except I don't have a comma there. And there we got it. So you can see how ugly that name is now. All right. So look, here we've ordered greater than 5. So this was the wholesale price. This is the new wholesale price. Here and here, we have less than 5. So we didn't change the price. So it's all working. Okay. All right. Definitely should change the name of that one. I don't know if it's going to let me do that without giving me an error or not. So. That looks a lot nicer. Okay. All right, let's finish these last 3 and then we'll take a break. Hopefully what you're starting to see with this last example that was in here on number 9. All right, well, hopefully what you're starting to see is we're actually bringing some kind of programmatic stuff in here. And we're going to do it with the next one too, because you can use the case statement in here. All right, we're going to use that right now. So for number 10, these are the last 3 that are in here. From the customers table, write a query that provides the customer first name, customer last name, customer street address, customer city, and a calculated column that called state name. So in other words, if it's CA, we want it to say California. If it's OR, we want it to say Oregon. TX, we want it to say Texas. WA, we want it to say Washington. Otherwise, we want it to say unknown. All right, so let's do that for number 10. All right, now we're going to put a case statement in here. I'll keep it all caps. You'll notice the syntax is different than the C# syntax. Grab this right here. All right, so California, CA California, OR, Oregon, TX, Texas, and WA, Washington. Otherwise, we just want to say unknown. All right, let's see if this works. Well, it doesn't like this, so let's see. Make sure you have the right syntax. Put a C in here. I don't think that's going to really matter, but let's see. I may have gone from bad to worse trying to do this. Line 4. See, I shouldn't have to do this. Customer first name, customer last name, customer street address. This is all supposed to be case insensitive. Again, I forgot a comma. That's probably what the error was. No. Unknown column C dot state name, so I don't need that one here. Good news is that should be everything. It should work now. There you go. Now we've got the actual names of the states. All right, so we used a case and we changed that around to do that. Let's do 11 and 12. I think we all need a break. And number 11. Show a query that provides the customer first name, customer last name, and the sum of quantity ordered. So many customers have more than one order. Using this grouping thing that we're about to put in there, it's a group by. It'll add up all the orders for customer one, all the orders for customer two, etc. And if you don't understand what I mean, all right, if we look here, just to show you quickly, because I don't want to, this has been long enough, but if I select star from orders, all right, and I run this, you'll notice as we work our way through here, so there's 1018, for example. Oh, let's look at this. There's 1024, 1024. If I keep going, I'm going to find other ones. So I want to add up all the orders for each individual customer. So I'm going to concatenate together their first and last name. This is wrong, but we'll fix it. To do this, we have to join three tables together. Customers, which will be C, orders, which will be O, and order details, which will be OD. Again, I'm going to use the older syntax. Turn an empty set. Well, that says there was nothing wrong with the way I wrote the query, but nothing met the criteria. So that's wrong. Team order by. But once we get this one, the next one is just adding a line of code to this. So let's see. Group by might be wrong here, but I don't know what's wrong with it. It's the same thing we're doing here. Let's not do a group by. Let's see if I get any kind of results. No, I'm not. So it's not that. Not yet for the first name and the last name with a space between a customer name. Also grab the order detailed. Let's do this. This is going to give me a Cartesian product join, which I don't want, but I want to see if this thing is going to give me an answer. Okay. So what we're supposed to be doing here, if you notice, for example, let's see, there's Susan Viscas, and there's 25 rows. So if I keep looking, there'll be another Susan Viscas. It's supposed to be adding all these together, but the adding isn't working. It still isn't going to give me anything because I haven't changed anything. Saying 0 rows. When I ran this before, it worked just fine. I'm going to have to go back and clean up my answer key. All right. So let's see. back, and this is number 11. And number 12 would basically be the same thing. All right, number 12 would basically be the same thing as what we just had, except after the group by, we would say here, having a quantity ordered of less than or equal to 4. Now, since the other one didn't work, this is going to come back with nothing too, I would imagine. And it is. So I'll have to clean that up. I'm not sure what the problem is. All right. As always, kind of a mixed bag today. This is what I'm going to do. All right. What we did today then was we went over some terminology and some other stuff that's in here. All right. We looked very quickly at some tutorials. We brought in a new database, imported the schema in and imported the data for the 8 tables that were in there, then tried to run some queries. All right. As you can see, was again with some mixed success. So what I'm going to do is I've given you 4 of these worksheets, and I have keys for all of them. However, I've changed around some of the stuff since I wrote the keys, and I didn't update the keys. Silly me, stupid me. All right. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to let you go in about 5 minutes. I'm going to go back and try to fix and double check and make sure for all 4 of these worksheets that the keys work. Okay. And then I will put them out there as a GitHub repo. So this may take me 2 or 3 more hours. I don't know. Or it may take me a half an hour. But I want to give you stuff in here that works. My hope is after I do that, then I'm going to go back to the program I've been writing. And my hope is we can work on that program together tomorrow as a class where we will combine this with an actual C# GUI, which I think will make it a little bit easier to work with. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. All right. So with all that said, then it's my responsibility to clean up these worksheets. It's your responsibility to make sure that by tomorrow at midnight, you turn in 17.1 and 18.1 from the extra exercises, and you turn in 17 and 18 written tests. Again, please take a look at what I have for you at Inside Rankin. If there's anything in there that you think you've turned in that I haven't graded, send me an email right away and say, hey, I got this. Please grade this right away. I will do so. Again, I accept late work. So if you've got something late, you can turn it in for partial credit. The sooner you turn it in, the more credit you get. The later you turn it in, the less credit you get. All right. Finally, as it says on the bottom part there, chapter 19, the chapter we just went through yesterday, the only thing that I am going to, the only thing in that chapter that I'm going to assign is just the written test. There really is no other stuff for me to assign in there. So we're going to do that tomorrow. We're going to try to write a program with a C# interface to work on databases. Hoping against hope we can get that done. If for some reason I work on it tonight and I'm having trouble with it, come up with something else. And next week, we're going to look at the SQL Server relational database management system. So far, we've been looking at MySQL or MySQL relational database management system, but we are going to look at the SQL Server, which is Microsoft's relational database management system, next week. All right. That's all I've got. If you have any questions, as always, please email me at jpscott@rankin.edu. I try to be transparent. I do have one person who's been watching today and have seen all my screw ups. So rather than redoing this or whatever, I'm going to put it out there as it is and do my darndest to try to fix up all 4 of the answer keys. And I will put that out there then as a GitHub repo. Again, any questions, please email me, jpscott@rankin.edu. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Have a good day. Thanks.